absolutely ridiculous. They'll believe anything. They'll believe anything. Maybe. I have a serious question to ask you, Abby.
Okay.
Last year in May, Taiwan finally, strange word, but finally got hit by COVID, right? I think, what was the highest number of cases we had in a day? I think we got up to about 600 or 700 in one day once, right?
Less than 1,000, but it's almost like 800 or 900.
Sure. And then luckily we got it under control. And that was which variant of COVID? Delta, right? Yeah. But now, recently we've had quite a lot of Omicron coming into the country. We've had some local spread of Omicron. And what's the maximum local cases we've had per day?
I think it's less than 100.
Yeah, I haven't even seen. I think less than 50, right?
Recently, it's very low. Less than 50.
No, wait. There was one day. I think there was 60. It was like some people in a hotel, like a dormitory
80.
or somewhere. But it's just one day. So Delta must spread more than Omicron, right?
That's good. I still feel like weird. Like Omicron
it is weird,
should
right?
spread quicker.
Yeah, and there have been more than enough opportunities for it to really spread. But somehow we just have like 4 cases, 20 cases, 18 cases, 11 cases locally, and it's just not really going, which is completely different to anywhere else in the world that I've seen.
Yeah.
So I think I have an idea why this is happening, and we're going to get into it today, right? Okay. But before we do that, what do we need to do, Abby? Come on, tell me.
Okay, everyone should. 大家必须要来建议你们，就是帮我们分享、按赞跟订阅。
Right, and I can translate that Chinese. Basically, what it means is if you own a microphone, pick the microphone up and use it to beat the like and share and subscribe button on your telephone and give us some more subscribers, please. So,
I think one day you're gonna like clip all of the different
yeah.
the video and make it like
Yeah, well, we don't have to get that extreme. Okay, take your baby finger. Just give it a little tap.
Oh my God.
Tap, tappy. All right. Anyway,
okay, forget it.
Yeah, let's get into it, right? So, and if you want to know about our channel, somewhere around here, we're going to put a link to the video about why we made this channel.
Yeah, maybe here.
And we're working really hard at it. So if you can give us a share or like, it would be fantastic, right? So, all right. So, Abby, let's get into this. Yeah, before we talk about that question, I'd had another question, which is, what happened? Because you and I have done a few videos, and it was before Chinese New Year. It was like October, November. And I think that we knew more than the government, right? Because we were saying, listen, when Chinese New Year comes, like people aren't going to be able to travel. Because you remember end of last year, what were they telling us? They were saying, if everybody gets to 70% or 80% vaccinated,
we're back to normal.
We're back to normal, right? And they're going to take the quarantine away. Did we get up to that number of vaccinations?
Yeah.
We did.
Did
they take the quarantine away?
No.
No. So we were right. How? Was it that? Do we have some special skill? Are we that super intelligent that we know something they don't know?
No, we just know what's the government's attitude. They're gonna be more conservative. They want to be safe.
Sure, I think that's one part. But I mean, also just logically, if you looked at what was going on around the world, you could see that was just never, ever going to happen, right? And if you looked at the way people in Taiwan, like a lot of people, are so terrified of the virus that as soon as you got cases going up, that was going to be the end, right? So how come we knew this and the government couldn't figure it out? Should we work for the government? No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
But it is an interesting question, right? How come we could figure that one out? We could see it, but the government couldn't, and they were pushing this narrative for so long.
Pushing this narrative.
Yeah, telling everybody, go get vaccinated, and if you can, we take the quarantine away, and you can travel. We go back to normal. And people followed, people listened. Didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you feel now, people in Taiwan? I wonder, do you feel cheated? I think people should.
Alex, I heard lots of people say, we should live with the virus. We should back to normal life. Because you see, we already have lots of people get vaccine. We should have the right to come back to normal life.
Sure, but instead, let's talk about what's really happening. So right now, let's say that you had COVID and I was near you, what would happen to me if the government found out?
You're gonna be quarantined as well.
I have to go. Even if I didn't have a negative COVID test, a positive COVID test, I'd have to go into quarantine for at least two weeks, right?
2 weeks.
Right. And what's worse is that I'd probably need to pay for it.
You have to pay for maybe you have to pay the hotel.
As you can see from this article here, this is an article talking about this, right? And I've given it a read, and it isn't that every single person needs to pay. Interestingly, if you test positive, you don't have to pay. But if you had COVID and I was near you and I didn't get it, luckily, I get punished. I need to pay. Yeah. I mean, you got to explain how that makes any kind of sense, right?
You say you are negative, you have to pay, but you also have to lock in the hotel.
So what if I'm like a super healthy guy and I've got this really great immune
Punish
system?
for your immune system.
Punished for your immune system, boy. You know what I mean? It's just insane, right? So if you have a look at it, it says here, right? So, and this is an article that Google's helped to translate. So if the language is not perfect, please forgive us, right? But it says if there is a close contact with the confirmed person or the footprint overlaps, there are many procedures from receiving the quarantine notice to taking the test, how to isolate the negative and positive and so on, right? So if you have a look in this article, you'll see a few things here. Let's just scroll down and see. It says here that the centralized quarantine center is close to full capacity. So people are being forced to live in the epidemic prevention hotels at their own expense, which may cost tens of thousands of Taiwan dollars or even close to 100,000, 6 figures. So if you think about it, right, I saw an article with one person, they had to pay I think 42,000 Taiwan dollars for their 2-week quarantine.
Oh, 42.
Yeah, I think 14 times 3, right?
3,000
3,000
per
a
day. So yeah,
and that 3,000 a day quarantine hotel is pretty dodgy, from what I understand. Yeah, because I know other people who are paying a lot more.
Yeah,
so
I know
it's
if they're
bottom of the road, right?
If they don't have enough room, you probably have to book a very expensive hotel. 10,000 per night, I think.
Sure. So that'd be 140,000 for 14 days, right?
Expensive.
Yeah. And for what? For doing what wrong? For just by mistake being around somebody who had COVID, right? Isn't that interesting, right? And if you could look at this article more, it says once the county and city government finds out that you and the confirmed person have been in the same high-risk areas, such as restaurants, clinic, etc., they may be judged by the city government to be listed and quarantined. Oh, it sounds very bad. Okay. And then you get a text message, and you've got to return home and wait for an inspection. So an inspection, I'm guessing somebody comes to your house, and then you've also got to pay for the test. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy to see all these things, right? And then so you pay for the test, and then you have to pay for the specific taxi.
How much the test is?
300.
4,000.
4,000.
Test? Even PCR test?
Yeah, I think that in this situation, they say a fee of 300 will be charged for the test. I think if you just go and have a test, you probably pay the 4,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you've got to pay for the taxi. But if there is no place available in your city, you might have to travel to another city in that taxi, and you have to pay. That's a meter taxi. Can you imagine paying a meter taxi to Miaoli or somewhere?
Oh.
Yeah. And then here it is. Here's the killer. If you are diagnosed, everything is free. If you're not diagnosed, you may burn a lot of money. So it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Why?
Yeah. So I mean, you've done nothing wrong. You're just near someone, and then after that you can't work. So your freedom to work is taken away, and then your freedom of movement is taken away, and then on top of that you have to pay money.
Yeah, and even you lose your time. I remember I watched a news, someone, they go to a restaurant before the confirmed cases.
Yeah.
They left, they go and left before the confirmed cases, but they still have to be quarantined.
Yeah.
And the guy is supposed to do some surgery after a few days in the hospital or anything. He's gonna get postponed because of the quarantine.
Yeah.
But it's all not make sense. It now since that he not only of the cancel the surgery, but he also have to pay lots of bills just because he went to the restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I think from what I've read, if you kind of live alone, you might be okay. You can quarantine at home.
At home. Yeah.
If it's 2 people, you need to have 2 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms and keep them separate or something. So I don't think that for families that's going to really make too much sense for people, right?
Yeah, it's not easy to do that.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought Taiwan was this like liberal democracy. I must say I'm very disappointed recently when I see this stuff happening in Taiwan, right? Because like it doesn't really make sense that you can just say to someone, hey, listen, you haven't tested positive for any sickness, but we can remove you from society basically for 2 weeks. You know, and make you pay for it. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? It seems like a bit of a strange thing, right? And then you were also telling me about that other person on Instagram, right? Maybe you can tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. Just like the #1 podcast host in Taiwan, Gooaye. Recently, his family, they went to Europe for visiting his wife's family. And when they come back to Taiwan, they test positive.
So they tested negative in Europe and then positive here.
That's a long story. Before his wife, Lisa get COVID at a time, but
Where in Europe?
In Europe,
Okay.
but she recovered. And they think, because his wife, they are so close. When his wife already get COVID, and he and the children should be also had COVID, right? Probably they just have a mild symptom or they already recover.
So they only had a mild sickness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even the Lisa also has the mild symptoms.
Yeah.
So after that, when they travel around Europe, they don't really sometimes they don't wear the mask.
Okay.
They lived like normally. They don't really like very cautious. Because
so they recovered from the mild symptoms.
They recovered.
Weren't wearing masks. Okay.
Sometimes they don't really wear masks. And I think it's like lots of people in Europe, they also do the same thing because they have the experience. They know their family members, their close friends, they all have the COVID but recover. So they feel like more safe. Anyway, that's their attitude at a time, right? But when they want to go back to Taiwan, they don't want to make any troubles. So they go to the PCR test 3 times. It's all negative.
So that was the PCR test in Europe before they left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before they fly back because they don't want to any troubles
issues,
quarantine in Taiwan.
And
right?
all 3 were negative.
Yeah, all.
Okay.
But when they arrived Taiwan, he shared all the experience on the podcast. Okay, when he arrived Taiwan, the government say, "Oh, okay, you have to stay in the room, and everyone gonna rapid test." You see that after maybe 30 minutes, they will tell you the result. And when the staff come back and say, "Okay, you, the husband and the kid, you are positive. You need to be quarantined. And the wife, you are negative.
Wow.
So you too, you have to separate it with the husband and the kid. And you go back home or go back to the quarantine hotel, and the husband and the kid should go to the hospital. And they fight for that because you couldn't separate the mom and the kid.
Sure.
Especially only 6 months.
Sure.
So anyway, they use 2 ambulances.
2 ambulances.
2 ambulances drove them to the hospital. They think, why? You can just use only 1 ambulance, but anyway, they use 2. And when they arrive at the hospital, they also ask them if you need 2 rooms. But they say, no, we are family. We can stay in 1. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so they say they feel so weird and feel embarrassed because they don't have any symptoms, but they occupied the resource.
Did they use 1 room then?
They use one room, but they still feel bad.
Is that the video that you sent me?
Yeah.
We can show it to people quickly, right? Let's have a look here.
Yeah. His name is...
Okay, it's only 30 seconds.
That's their hospital room.
Okay, so let's just play it and we can have a look. I wonder why
One camera.
dodgy music.
That's a Squid Games music.
Hey, cameras in the room.
Yeah, cameras in the room.
So how do you get changed?
You probably have to go to the bathroom and change. I don't know. And lots of people comment below say, "Oh, you couldn't have sex now," or something. Lots of things you couldn't do, and you have to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I know that you
even
laugh when you say you can't have sex, but that's a normal, logical thing for a couple to do, right? I mean, like taking away people's lives. Yeah, it sounds funny, but still, you need to have sex, right?
You know,
I mean, come on.
You know, like even they redo the PCR test, they are negative, but they still have to stay in the hospital. But I don't know, because before they already booked the quarantine hotel, it costs like 10,000 per night.
Yes.
I don't know if they can get the money back, or they still have paid.
So I said
for
that's
it.
like
I don't
over
know.
300 USD per night that they already booked, and now they can't use that.
Yeah.
And now they're taking up space in a hospital when they're
With a
not
camera.
sick. So then it makes me wonder, when you hear stories of the hospitals are full, are they really full, or are they full of shit like this?
That's why they feel embarrassed, right? Because lots of people need the room, but
Well, that's what we just saw in the other article, right? It said that the quarantine centers are too full. But then, are full of what? Because this doesn't seem like it's making any logical sense. They've got a whole lot of people who aren't sick in a room quarantining.
yeah. So the government always encourage people, hey, you have to take vaccine, or otherwise we worry about hospital overwhelming, right? But look at what they do.
Are they vaccinated?
Probably,
Probably, right?
they're vaccinated.
So they're vaccinated, but it didn't change anything. And like they said last year, if you get 70 or 80% and we got it, they'd change something. Nothing changed. So again, like if I were a Taiwanese person and I've been listening to this, I'd feel pretty cheated. The government put a target. They said, if you do this, this is going to happen. People did it, and now it hasn't happened. And instead, we still have to deal with all these restrictions all the time. And on top of that, like we had 2 months where we hardly had a case. And we still had to wear masks, even outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in the gym, you could take the mask off. Walking on the street, you needed to wear a mask. There's no logic. And it was 2 months with no cases. I had to go through that. I feel cheated. Like, I get it if I don't like wearing the mask, but if there's a real threat, okay, I'll wear it. But you're telling me there's no cases in the country, and I got to walk on the street and wear a mask. It just, I don't understand how these people make sense, right? And we saw what was going to happen before it happened.
I think there's a government's efficient, right? So, I think lots of things it's no logic behind that, because when you work on the street, you have to wear the mask. It's outdoor, right? But when you go to a restaurant, you want to eat, you can take off the mask.
No, Abby, please. The virus is smart.
They know you're eating.
It knows when you're going to the toilet.
You know.
It knows the toilet is the most dangerous part. That's why you need to wear a mask in the toilet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
They know you are they know you are eating. They avoid.
It's an
they were
extremely
not
smart
dispersed.
virus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like I went to a restaurant the other day, right? So, I mean, you walk in, you're wearing a mask. You try to go to sit down, you're wearing a mask. Everyone else is not wearing a mask. Then you want to go to, it was a hot pot restaurant. You go and get your little bowl with the soy sauce and everything, and you put the mask on. For what reason? And then, not even that, when you go there to get the soy sauce, they had plastic gloves.
Oh.
And you had to put the glove on.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And all the staff were wearing masks and plastic visors.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like natural world anymore, man. It feels ridiculous.
I just think if it's really strong, the Omicron or the virus is really spreads really quick when you take off your mask, or in the normal way you live, we already get the virus. So,
but then we saw earlier, as we said at the beginning of the segment, right? Delta spread way worse in Taiwan than Omicron. Magic, right?
that's why I don't really understand.
No, I do. I can tell you exactly. Well, I don't know if I know, but I have a theory. If you start telling Taiwanese people that if you're near someone who tests positive, right, then you're going to have to get quarantined. Then I would tell you, if I felt sick, would I be thinking about having a test? No, because if I have a test and I get caught or whatever, I'm going to be pulled out of society.
Oh, yeah.
And if my wife
It's a
or
punish.
girlfriend or children feel sick, I'm like, dude, it's not COVID. You just stay at home, right? I'm not going to encourage them to give a test, because if my son tests positive, the whole family's got to go through this rubbish. What a great way to disincentivize people from getting tested. And now, magically, our COVID cases, we have Omicron spreading, but different to anywhere else in the world, the numbers are staying low. Yeah, right. Right.
Because I don't go to the test.
Would you?
No.
Would you, if your boyfriend got COVID, would you go and get a test? No, and then you know that Omicron is supposed
Because
to be
we got a
mild. You
mild
just say, dude,
system.
we just stay at home by ourselves.
Yeah, I remember I saw the article in PTT. It's like I don't know. There's a platform similar to like a rabbit. Rabbit? I don't know. The kind of animals platform for Taiwan. Anyway, some guys say, oh, they don't want to use the QR code, because once you use a QR code, you might have to quarantine. For like 2 weeks, and after. And you have to pay for the bill, for the hotel bill. You lose the 1 month's salary, and then when you left the hotel, you lose your job. Because probably they are in a part-time job or something. You couldn't work during that time, and you lose your job, but you still have to.
So basically, the government's policies are making people not follow the procedures, not use the QR codes, not get tested. That sounds amazing. Government of Taiwan, yeah, you get to do this, man. You guys are fantastic.
Okay.
It makes no sense, right? Like, what kind of policies are those?
I mean, that's the government's efficiency. If it's like a
No,
commercial
that's
company,
not efficiency. That's inefficiency. That's actually retarded. That's ridiculous, right? There's no sense at all in what they're doing. But then it gets worse, right? Because who gets affected by this most? If you're some rich dude, okay, go to a nice hotel, get a big suite for 14 days. What happens if you're a young guy, who's just trying to make his way in the world, and now you got to pay $42,000 for the cheapest little hotel, and as you said, plus you might lose your job. This is going to affect poor people and young people way more than everybody else. That's not fair either.
I mean, yeah, maybe the government, they do the strategy, but it has some side effect. If it's in the company, the business company, they will fix the problem immediately. They will change the strategy right away because the efficiency is very quick. But for the government, it's too
much
many
bureaucracy, too many rules.
Too many rules, too many things you have to deal with it. So it takes a long time. You can see lots of things that they couldn't catch up the rules. So that's why the person like the number one podcast host say, he thinks like
is
the
that
government.
The picture that you sent me?
Just that guy in Mong Kong.
The picture? This?
Oh no.
This
That's
is
his
wife,
wife's
right?
post.
Okay.
I mean, he feels like the government should not hold this restriction too tight. They should give the prevent the virus to the personal, to people themselves, because it would be more efficient.
Sure. But in the
it's a capitalism idea.
Like a year or two ago when this first started, people were saying to me they think the government's lying that there are more cases. And at that point, I thought, no, it can't be, right? Because if there were really cases, you'd see the clusters starting to spread. I didn't believe it then, but now I kind of believe it, because as you just showed, like, people are not going to follow the rules because they're worried about the effects of these policies. So now I think you definitely could have a lot of cases that people are, like, I can imagine someone just saying, listen, I'm just going to quarantine on my own as best I can at home and tell my boss I want to work online. But I'm not going to let the government know that I'm sick. Even if I suspect I've got COVID, I might be trying to hide it, because the penalty is there. It's not an official penalty, but it works like a penalty.
Yes.
So now I do believe that there might be cases that we don't know about. So it just doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah. So basically in Taiwan, I think the PCR test has become the most expensive test in history, right? Because this thing could hold us back. because people don't even want to have the test now.
You mean they want to?
Well, who wants to have a test if you know that this could happen to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as you said, they use 2 ambulances for one family. Yeah. What an efficient use of resources, man. It's just... And as we said, we predicted this. We're not scientists. We're not doctors. We're just 2 people with an opinion who read the news. And we predicted what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just... It doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I'd love to know what other people think, right? I'd love to know what you think about this.
But I think it's really glad that he shows us like what's procedure during the governance, or how do they deal with all the
Sure. And it seemed like they had a really nice attitude with the way they did it. Isn't it? Because that's that picture. Let's have a look at that picture that you showed me.
Yeah.
It's not this
because
one.
That's Lisa's post. She don't feel comfortable when the government try to say they gonna how they do to his.
Well, should we read what she said?
Her baby.
Should we read what she said? She said, "Yeah, I understand and respect the rules of needing to quarantine for 14 days in Taiwan. What I don't understand is trying to separate a 6-month-old baby from his mom, even though I already got the virus last month." Sure, and that's like natural immunity, right? I mean, that's coming out everywhere now. And what I don't understand even more is why would the government even force people with no symptoms to quarantine in a hospital, wasting the space for someone who might actually need it, plus overworking the doctors and nurses? That's another great point. I'm grateful that Taiwan is such a careful country, but I wonder, was it necessary to take blood from my healthy 6-month-old baby 3 times? That's a good question. Was it necessary to do a nose PCR test on him instead of the mouth one? Another fantastic question, right? He's more likely to get sick from being locked up in the hospital room that has no heater in 16-degree C weather than he is from the virus itself. Why is it so hard to just let us go home and quarantine there? I know some people will just think, if you don't like it, don't travel. But you really can't expect to put people's lives on hold for years. Another good point. Honestly, if it wasn't for Choco, I would already have booked a ticket to return home. Who's Choco?
Choco is their dog.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really wrong, right? I mean, that PCR test in the nose for a 6-month-old baby, that's
it's really
that's painful, and I've heard they're really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking blood 3 times. It just all seems like rules without humanity. You know, like
the rules
unnecessary
doesn't change.
rules. Yeah, sometimes you need to bend rules a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, no, these are the rules. We follow them.
It's very strict. They don't. I think the rules, you made a rule at first, but after you execute it, you know there's some problems, or you can do it better, but they don't really fix that.
Sure, and even worse, they told people they'd be able to travel. They told people that the quarantine would go away if they got vaccinated, and I'm sure these people got all the vaccinations. I'm sure
they got vaccinated,
and they were lied to. And it easily was predictable. So, yeah, the government's got to do a better job, man. That's really ridiculous.
Yeah, I also think the Gooaye also have a good concept, because he thinks why the government think the hospital will be overwhelming.
Overwhelmed? Well, of course they will if they're doing this. I think
kind of stuff, because right? What they do, and also because the health insurance, the 健保 system is so it makes very cheap. So you think about in United States or Europe, because when you go to doctor, you have to pay lots of money. So if the people only have the mild symptom, or they don't have any symptom, they won't go to the hospital. They will stay home and try to recover by themselves.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, because then you don't have to go through all these rules and losing like work time and everything. Yeah, it's incentivizing people to not get tested. And that could be a problem, because one of those people, like, remember that one guy who traveled around the country? A guy could be sick and not know, or not be worried, and really spread it around, and then all of a sudden everyone will freak out and we have to go into lockdown again. Yeah. I mean, if it happens in Taiwan, it's because it's very cheap to go to the hospital. You probably only pay like less than $200, you can go to hospital. So
when the people have a mild symptoms, they say, "Oh my God, I might get COVID," so they will go to the hospital, and they like that's why they will overwhelming the
system.
all the medical
and
systems,
then once they
right?
get in there are all these different rules. I mean, why'd they need to check the baby 3 times? Take blood 3 times plus the PCR. I mean,
The
that's
PCR
just
test is
overkill,
really
right?
deep into the nose.
Yeah.
So I think even in adults,
But that's
feels
4
really-
tests. And I guess the baby was tested before it came.
no.
And then so I mean, it's
I
just
don't
so
know.
many tests. And then have you seen all these tests? How much plastic these tests use? These tests. I mean, I wonder how much of that stuff is landing up in the oceans or in landfills. We already have plastic problems, right? It's like you see masks everywhere on the floor now. Like a lot of negatives from all this, right?
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I think even I hope like the government will change the rules, but I think they will not be quick.
It's very hard for government to change, as you said.
It's
right?
not easy to change
because they don't use resources efficiently because it's not done for profit. So that's where you lands up getting a lot of waste and just a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense, but they're just following rules.
Yeah.
Which not a good thing. Right. So as I
Right.
said, I'd love to hear what you guys think, and you can tell us if you disagree or if you agree. But I probably can say I speak for a lot of people that most of us are just pretty sick of this and hope it gets over, right?
Yeah.
Because this is getting ridiculous now.
Yeah.
All right. Right. Okay. Let's move to our last segment for the day.
Okay. Cool.
Right, okay.